Hi there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to model organic shapes in Pytha and then convert it into a production ready piece of a furniture. If you are a complete beginner, I would advise you go and watch my beginner series and then you can jump onto this tutorial. So to start with, I'll be making a reception counter and then we'll learn to make more complex object. So I'll jump to my YZ view and I'll go to my faces function and I'll make some default faces. So first I'll start with making a rectangle with rounded corners and I'll select this as my origin. In the sizes, I'll put a value of 700 for both Y and Z. And the radius, I'll keep it to 100. And the segments, I should be keeping it optimal. So it should not be less or not more as well. So it should be quite optimal. I'll stick to 18 here. And now I'll make a circle from the center of this face and I'll just drag my mouse and drop it interactively. The third shape, I'll be making an ellipse again from the center and I'll draw it a little bit bigger. So now I have three different shapes. I'll go in my axonometry view and I'll move my shapes in X at different intervals. So I'll right click on my rectangle and move it at 1500 in X. And I'll move my circle at 3000 in X. And now I'll go in my main menu, I'll go in parts and I'll transform this into a 3D object. For that, I'll go in Loft function under Freeform. When you click on Loft, it's asking whether your cross section is an edge or a face. Since we made a face, I'll click on face and now the input bar is asking to select the cross sections. So we have to select it one by one and I confirm with my middle mouse button. And now I have a Loft dialog here. So I can increase my cross section to 24 and I'll say make it cubic and I confirm with my OK button. So I got a shape here. Now this is not my reception counter. I'll play around with it. So I'll go in my main menu and I say I want to go in part tools 1 and deform it. So in part tools 1 under deformation, you have to go in special and we'll twist this object. So I'll select this object has to be twisted and I confirm with my middle mouse button. Now the input bar is asking the area where I want this to be twisted. So I'll select the area completely and I confirm with my middle mouse. And now here I can twist it. So I'll be twisting in X. And if you click on this arrow, you can see this object is getting twisted. But it is getting twisted from the origin. So I'll change and I'll say twisted from center of my object. And I can just keep it 360. So this is what we got, and we started with a loft where my ellipse got transformed into a rounded rectangle which got transformed into a circle. So the next step is to convert it into panels. We can tweak it more by going in part tools 1 and bend it. So while you click on bend in the input bar, it's asking for the bending position. By default it is center, so I keep the same. I confirm with my middle mouse and I say I want to bend in my Z axis in Y direction. So you can see the arrow and I'll say angle interactive. So I'll bend it slightly inside. The angle I'll make it 45 and I confirm with my OK button. And now before I convert it into panels, I'll change the pen color so you can differentiate between the panel. And now I go to part tools 2 and here I'll make a section lines. So when you click on section lines, you can see the lines are created in your XY plane because your XY plane is selected. I can change this and I can say I want lines to be in XZ. So in your XZ plane, the lines have been spread and the lines are spread in 20 mm interval. So here you can define the distance. And I'll say I want these lines to be in YZ direction and I want to convert it into a profile. So when I say create profile, I'll get a 3D object out of it. And this object, I'll make it at 30 mm So the thickness of each of my panel will be 30, and the distance from my first panel to the second panel should be 60. So interval will be of 30. And be careful before you type in any number, because this dialog is real time, so you need to have a patience. Maybe you can sit with a cup of a coffee. I'll just click on 6. So this will make panels at 30 mm intervals. And now I confirm with my OK button, and I can delete the original part. So this is what we get from lines function. And now you can choose to make it straight from inside, where I would be putting some chairs and my tabletop. For that, I'll go in my cutting plane, and I'll say I want to cut all of these parts. I'll confirm with my middle mouse button, and here I say I will give the cutting path by a ruler. So I click on OK, and I make a ruler here. So when I click, I can now rotate my ruler. So I'll stick to 180 degree, and here I'll say I want to keep my back parts. So the arrow is facing here, this is my front. I'll say please keep my back parts. So now we have a good straight cut internally, and you can also choose to make it straight from the bottom as well. So let us finish this thing. I'll make my internals. So I'll quickly make my tabletop, my sides, and I'll get it placed here. And now I'll place some of the props on top of it. So I'll place some chairs, and I'll place a system. If you think all of this is too fast, then you can watch my video in the description, where I have done all these steps quite slow. And whatever props I'm using here, you will get it for free in the link below. So we have placed some props. I'll place a glass as well. And now I'll make a quick render out of this. To make a render, I'll go in perspective, and I'll set a proper angle. Again, all of this has been done in one of the video you can see in the description below. And now I'll go to my render settings, go in parameters, and I'll change this thing to my 4K resolution. And I'll turn off my ambient light. I'll turn on shadow catcher, because I'll be using a light from a panorama image. So for that, I'll go in background, and here you can load any HDRI. So I have loaded one from HDRI Heaven. You can download it for free. The link is in the description. And because I am placing a background, make sure there is a light coming from that. And we'll go in view, and we say we want to preview this background in our scene. So the object is not correctly placed in our background, and I can just rotate this thing and place it somewhere here. Okay, so I have the empty space here. And the most important thing, we have not applied the materials yet. So I go in material, I say I want to assign the material with equal thickness. So I select all of my panel in one go, and I confirm with my middle mouse button, and here I'll just render it in white color. And now I can go back and click on render high resolution. So if you look at the image, we can realize that the scale is not correct with that of the room. So you can download a different background, or we can scale the objects here. To scale it, I will have to go in main menu, and from here I can go to tools 1, and I say I want to zoom interactively all of my objects. So I'll say exactly all parts, and I'll just scale it interactively by 20%. So here from 100, I'll make it 120, and this should increase the size of the object. Not a good idea if you want to use this for manufacturing. Maybe you can make a separate copy. And now I'll render this in a different scale. So I'll cancel this, and I'll start a new render. After completing of 10 samples, I have pretty decent result, and there is a lot of noise. So To get rid of this noise, I'll use denoiser, and after a few seconds we should have a clear image. And now I'll reduce my brightness by 20% and also my gamma. So let us save this image. And now I'll jump back and show you some of the more advanced function to make this organic shapes. So I'll just go to view and turn off my preview. And I'll go in my axonometry view. I'll make this invisible. And now I go in my top view and I'll turn on my grids. So I'll place a grid of 500 by 500 in chessboard style. And now I'll zoom out. This time I'll be using curve function. So I'll start with a new curve. So when I'm making a new curve, I'll always start from right to left. So I'll start from 1000 and I'll go this way. And I'll make my second curve. And I'll make my third curve. So I'll have two curves because I'm going in same direction. I can also turn on the extended axis labeling so we know how far we are going. So we are around 2500. And I'll make a new curve. This time I'll go from bottom to top, again from right to left. And I'll make my another curve at 2500 and give it such a shape. And now I'll go in my exit view, and this time I'll make another curve. So I'll go from top to bottom and I'll make a curve going in this way. So I'll make a shape of M, and I'll come all the way down and make another curve. So this is all random and nothing planned, and that's what we call it as an organic shape. And now I'll turn off my grid, and here you see there is a 3D data button in bold. So it means this curves makes no sense unless you convert it into a 3D. So I'll go in 3D and I say make an edge out of this. Now when you click on edge, the system is asking in the input bar to select the curves which should be converted into edge. So I say all of these three curves, and I confirm with my middle mouse button at 0 point, and I right click and I exit this thing. So when I go back, you can see all of your three curves. And now the next job is to convert this thing into 3D. So I'll go in parts, in various, and I'll say I want to use a rail sweep command. Now when I'm in the rail sweep command, the system is asking to select two chains of edges. So make sure you have two edges, and this is my guideline where I'll be sweeping this M-shaped spline curve. So I'll confirm with my enter mouse button, and if you see by default it has taken a circle as a cross section. You can say you want it square or a triangle, or you can pick your own chain of edges. So I selected this and I got such a shape. Now the height I want it to be fixed at 400. You can make it more broader if you move your curve. So I'll press Ctrl Z on my keyboard to undo my last step. And now I move my edge in Y direction and make it more broader. So I move it by 200 and I say rail sweep again with this 2 guideline, and my cross section is this edge. And now I fix my height at 400. So this is what we made, and now I can convert this thing to lines. So I'll go in my part tools 2, go to lines command, and I select this. And here I keep the same values what I used last time. I confirm with my OK mouse button, and now you can get rid of your original part, and this is what you created. So this is one of the way where you can use rail sweep and make such an object. I will show you another way where I'll be using NURS function. So NURS stands for non-uniform rational spline, and this is all technical I know about it. In short, it will help you make smooth objects, And for that you have to go in block, and we'll start by making a block of around 2 meters in X, 900 in Y, and I'll say 900 in Z. And now I'll go to my nurse function and I say create a nurse object inside this. So before I click, I'll make it transparent so you can see what's happening inside, and I got a smooth object internally. So the block which is outside is a mother part, and we have a daughter part in blue color inside. Now the way I'll move the edges or the geometry of this block, the daughter part will change accordingly and it will be smooth. So in case you move this face in X, you will see the object changing. And if you divide it, so I'll divide my face from this center and up until this center. So you will see the object is getting closer to the division. And now I can go to my edges from the nurse itself, and I say I want to move this above, and I want to move this new edge which I used as a division. This will be moved below. So I'm giving it a shape of a lawn chair, and I just drop it here. And now you can delete your mother part and we can just change the daughter part. So I'll go in my front view and I have to make it straight from the bottom, otherwise it will wobble. So I'll click on cut plane, I select this and I say I want to use ruler to cut this part. And now I keep my ruler here and I say I want to keep the front parts only. So this is what we created using nurse, and I'll go to my tools to again and I'll convert this thing into a parametric panel. So in this case, because this is a chair, I won't want a distance between all these panels, because the idea is to stick and glue all of this panel together. So here I'll keep the distance at 30. There won't be any intervals in between. And in this case, I can make it in XZ as well. So here I'll have to do less sanding here. With my YZ, there will be more of a sanding to be done. If you click with your OK mouse button and you delete your original part, so you will be left out with such an object. Now let us make one final object. So I'll be making a wall using again this nurse function, and we'll make a bench on that wall. So for that, I'll go in my block command. I'll make a wall of 4000 mm wide, and in Y I'll make it 200. In Z I'll keep it 3000. And now to convert this wall into an organic shaped wall, I'll turn on my edges and I'll right click on this. I click on edit, and here I say I want to have around 10 segments in X and roughly around 10 segments in Z. So I'll go in my front view, I'll zoom into this wall and I'll play around with these edges to make a nice bench here. To do that, I'll go in my smart tools function and I'll go to edges, and here I say I want to move some of the edges. So I click all of these edges and I say move from this point up until this point and come back 50 mm below. And I'll do the same thing for this edge. I'll select all of it together and I bring it all the way down and move back 50 mm behind. And now I move all of this up until here and move back 200 behind. And now I'll move all of this edges around 200 mm below, and this edges I'll move it above. So I'm just making some random shape. And now I go to my face tools here and I say I want to move all of this face outside. So I select one by one each of this face and I go in my axonometry view. I confirm with my middle mouse and I say come outside by 500 mm. So the idea is to convert this thing into a bench. And now I go to nurse function and I say create a nurse object inside this. So I want to show you what we got out of this. So we got a nice smooth object and we can convert it into a parametric panel. But before we do that, I'll give more of a design factor here. So I delete this, I go in my front view and I go to my edges and I say I want to move all of these edges above. So I select all of it and move it above and I bring it a little bit below. So it's all random. I'll just give it a little bit of curve. Same, I'll do it here. And I'll give a curve here as well. So I'll select all of this and move it below. And I move it more below. So now we go back and we see how our object will look. I click on nerves again and I move this here. So we have such a shape now. Still the top part of this wall looks empty, so we can put this rail swept object on top of this. And also the thickness of the wall has to be increased, so I'm gonna delete this thing and I go in my top view. I move all of these edges around 200 mm behind, so I have a thick wall. And now I go in my front view and I'll just move these objects so that I can use the same curves. Now I go to parts, I go to various and I say rail sweep and these are my guidelines. I confirm with middle mouse and I say I want to pick my own edge, and here I'll fix my height to somewhat to 100 and I confirm with my OK button. And now I right click on this and I rotate in X by 90 degrees. And now I right click on this and I move it from this point up until somewhere here. Now the object is smaller than the wall, so I right click and I say I want to zoom this thing and zoom it in X by 4000. Make sure you are in zoom command and not extend, otherwise it will be extended from center. So when you zoom it, it is done in proportion. I confirm with my OK mouse button and I say just move in center in X between these 2 points. And now I'll go to my nurse function again and I create a nurse object inside this wall. Now I can delete the original wall and this is what we have. So before I turn into lines command and make panels out of this, I'll make a union of this swept part and my wall. So before I make union, I'll move this part a little bit inside. And now I'll have to reduce the size in X because I can see the notches coming out. So I'll right click again and I say I want to zoom to box and reduce it by 200. So this will be 100 mm less from both the sides. And now I can easily make a union out of this. So I right click, I say union, I select both of this part and this should make a one part out of this two. So the final step is I'll go in tools 2 and go in my lines function. I select this part and I say convert into panels. And here I make my thickness of 40 and the distance between each panel should be 40 again. So here I will have to put 80. I'll click on OK and now I'll delete the original part. So this is what we made using nurse function. And now I'll say all the parts visible. So we made around 4 objects using different functions. We started with Loft and then we used curve and 2 rail sweep and then we used nurse function. That was it for today. In the next video, we will learn to make these drawings production ready and how we are going to communicate with manual to semi-automatic and to automatic CNC machines. Thank you for watching.